Hey folks, welcome to the Paperless preview, sneak peek of what's to come at Paperless Parts and a quick demo. My name's Duncan Legget. I'll be walking through some slides today and our demonstration later, but I had a power outage, so I'm actually coming at you live from my car on my personal hotspot. So if you're ever curious what happens if the shop has a power outage and you need access, quoting from your car, this will be the experience, right? You can still do it because Paperless Parts is cloud-based. With that said, I'm going to turn off my video camera and I'll let Meg introduce herself while I pull up the slides.
Thanks, Duncan. Hi, all. My name is Meg Van Deventer. I'm a product manager here at Paperless. I currently work on one of our engineering teams where we're focused on the experience for shops who quote heavily from PDFs. And I'm going to be at FABTECH next week. So, really looking forward to chatting with you guys about what we are going to be previewing at the event and what you'll be able to come see at our booth.
So what we'll do today is we'll talk a little bit more about where Paperless Parts is today. So what is currently live in the platform that you could have access to. Then we'll talk about some of the favorite features we are showing at IMTS and at the upcoming FabTech event. That are soon to come. And then Meg will also talk a little bit more about what later stage our vision looks like. So with that, we'll get started. So when it comes to what's inside of Paperless Parts today, there's four key pillars that our functionality kind of funnels into. And the first one of those pillars is workflow centralization and automation. So a lot of shops that I've talked to across my time, 4 years at Paperless Parts, is the fact that most of the time they're managing their quote process out of email or Excel spreadsheets. And it's really hard either A, to know who's working on what and when, and making sure quotes aren't falling through the cracks. But then B, also it's hard to work as a team and make sure that everyone's on the same page on what tasks are supposed to be done. If you're pulling in purchasing, if you're pulling in folks from the shop floor, just ensuring that there's an easy way to collaborate on quotes together. Lastly, we built this workflow and centralization tool to actually capture a lot of data that's inherent in the quote process that can be bubbled up in things like analytics. So imagine being able to see all the quotes that you've done in a given set amount of time, but also the ability to look at win rates segmented by specific buyer or segmented by specific material type or process. Things that most shops would love to do to help with their triage of their quote process that they just can't do today if they're using Excel or ERP systems. The second area of our platform today is our pricing and costing automation. So this is using information inherent in the files you received in an RFQ, such as DXF files or 3D models, and creating custom rules that we can use this geometry to actually automate the inputs to those rules. So a lot of shops that I talk to specifically within fabrication, they'll have spreadsheets and Excel models and calculators where they'll plug in variables to determine laser cut times or nesting or time on the press break. In Paperless Parts, we can copy all the rules that you could dream up in Excel and then actually use our geometric engine to automate some of those inputs. The last pillar of our current product today is, or our third, sorry, is our enhanced buyer experience. So these are all the features that are revolved around making your buyers having a better experience doing business with you. I have actually quite a few friends from college that are now buyers at large OEMs. Some work at John Deere, some work at big defense contractors, some work at Amazon. And they are used to living in a digital world and being able to go on Amazon and buy whatever they want in a 2-day delivery time. And when it comes to buying parts at their day-to-day work, it sometimes takes days, if not weeks, to hear back from suppliers. So these feature sets, such as dynamic pricing or a digital quote that makes it easy for the buyer to see the parts that they're actually ordering from the shop. These feature sets just make it easier for your customer to do business with you, and then more likely than not, continue to do business with you. Last but not least, our last pillar of our platform is our investment into integrations. So we have built out a whole entire integrations team here at Paperless Parts that sits in our Boston HQ. And we routinely integrate with various different systems at our customers' shops. For example, ERP systems. We have lots of partnerships with different ERP systems to ensure there's connectivity between Paperless and those ERPs, but then also other third-party softwares like CRM systems and things of that nature, given our robust open API. So with all that said, some of the latest and greatest advancements we've had in our platform is this concept of Wingman. And so what exactly is Wingman and why are we building it? So Wingman is our new AI-powered assistant specifically for PDF quotes inside of Paperless Parts. And so the idea of wingman, right? The reason why we're calling it wingman is because in the military, a wingman is the individual that's going to help ensure that the pilot is not missing anything and reducing their risk of potentially missing critical information, and they always have your back. So when it comes to paperless parts wingman, this AI that we've built internally is specific for manufacturing and specific for detecting risks and calling out key information such as, over 10,000 different types of mil specs, AMS specs, ASTM specs, GD&T information, specific keywords that are specific to process and material, and more. And the idea here is you guys, as you're quoting, will have the peace of mind that you have this wingman helping you out in the day-to-day. So our goals of Wingman include, like I've mentioned, never miss. So never miss critical information on a PDF, right? I talk with shops daily, and every time I ask them what are the top challenges in estimating, they mention missing a critical spec, missing a, outside service specification on a print, missing a specific process that they're supposed to handle. If those miss, the price of the job is most likely going to be less than what it actually costs you to make that part. And so you're definitely going to win it, but you're not going to be happy that you won it. So one of our goals for Wingman is to ensure that you never miss that critical information that could, drive a certain cost that you need to factor into your quote. The second one is to hit your target, right? Wingman is active and it knows manufacturing. What I mean by active is it's not something that you need to alert or request for it to look at your prints. Wingman will, every time you upload a print, go to work and detect those specific items that I've mentioned before and that we'll show you in a second. And then last but not least is security first, right? Around half our customers are within the defense and aerospace industries, where they need to adhere by the FedRAMP moderate equivalent and CMMC compliant boundaries. And so we built this Wingman 100% within Paperless Parts, which is built within those cybersecurity measures to ensure that the data that you upload is still within those bounds, and folks within the aerospace and defense industry that are dealing with CUI information can still use paperless parts and still participate in Wingman. So before we get into the specific functionality that's available today, just wanted to quickly go over our vision of Wingman in general, right? And so with any product releases, we like to think of it as a crawl, walk, run approach. So right now we're in the stage of crawl, which is extracting and informing, right? So pulling out these critical details from the print, like I mentioned, specifications, descriptions, if the print detects threads, if there's some material callouts or process callouts on the print, just extracting that and informing the estimator on what that information is and where is it detected on the print. The next stage, right, in this process will be our walking stage, which is where we're actually creating automation that is derived from this information. So for example, you could imagine building out a formula within paperless parts that says anytime we detect a powder coat process in the PDF or a threaded hole in the PDF, let's add in a router step to our quote, right, automatically. So that's our kind of walking vision for this wingman. And then the running would be full pricing and costing automation with our P3L. So being able to have specific costing and pricing language tied to the extractions from this PDF. So we are not at the walk at a run stage. We're currently at crawl. And I'll pass it to Meg, who can talk a little bit more about the future, specifically when it comes to building PDF bombs in paperless parts.
Thanks, Duncan. Yeah, like Duncan said, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about bomb building. So I actually started at Paperless a little bit over 3 years ago in implementation, spent a lot of time training customers on working with assembly line items in Paperless. And one thing that's been clear to me and to our business is that when you get a model from your buyer for an assembly, we make the process of setting up the bomb structure, getting all of the components that go in an assembly, defining their parent-child relationships, really easy in our app. That's one area where we have traditionally been able to save shops a lot of time, especially compared to coding out of their ERP systems or Excel. Um, but we've also heard time and again that that is just the case way less often than we would hope, that you guys would hope. Your buyers can't always get you a model for a variety of reasons. They might be sending you PDFs, really nice, clean ones, or scan of a napkin that's 20 years old. You might be getting Excel spreadsheets. You're getting these BOM definitions in a lot of file formats. And traditionally, the process of getting those BOMs set up in any system when you don't have a model takes a really long time. It is really time consuming and it's a little bit more administrative almost than engineering work because you're not actually costing and pricing the part. You're really just entering data into your quoting system. Um, so this is an area where we have been tightly focused specifically because we want to help shops who quote from PDFs. If you want to go to the next slide, Duncan, here. Yeah, thanks. So this is a little bit of an early visual of the future of bomb building in paperless parts. Our engineering team has been hard on work on a feature that we are affectionately calling the bomb builder. And the goal is to make sure that the process of setting up your bomb structures is fast and easy so that you can get to the actual process of costing and pricing an entire assembly earlier on in coding. So in the bomb builder, you can see up here on the right, it is a high density interface that kind of looks a little bit like an Excel spreadsheet, but it's a little more custom built or purpose built for working with bill of materials structures. So you get that visual clarity and ease of entering info that Excel would provide. You can paste in part numbers for hundreds of components at a time. Normally, we know that would take an enormous number of clicks in whatever system you're typically working out of. You can leverage costing automation and workflow tools once the BOM is in paperless. So again, just trying to make that preliminary step a lot easier and faster. And then we're also introducing a couple of new nice to haves in the process. So if your BOM contains 30, 50 pieces of hardware, we want to make the process of matching those components to records in your purchase component library much faster so that you can quickly pull in your historical pricing, leverage it, and tie it to a record in your ERP system. So making every single step of this BOM building process a little bit smoother. Duncan, you want to go to the next slide here? Awesome. Yeah, let's take a look at the BOM builder versus Excel and ERPs. So the first thing is Excel is a Swiss Army knife for any job that you need to get done in quoting, and people love it for that reason, but it also means that you're not necessarily getting automation or kind of assistance in doing the tasks that you need to do specifically for quoting or building bombs. The bomb builder is, like I said, purpose built for working with bills of material. You can assign files to components. You can bulk assign hardware or indicate that a part is purchased in a way that you can't do in a quoting spreadsheet. We also reduce data entry later on in the process. So even if you're quoting an assembly out of Excel when you first get the RFQ, once you win the PO, you probably have to rebuild that BOM in your ERP if it's new work. If you have an integration to your ERP with paperless, that's often something that we can help do for you and reduce data entry. Automated file assignment using AI. One thing we're doing today is once you enter the part number and revision for components in a BOM, we will check to see if we can automatically suggest which files should be assigned to which components in the BOM. Want to make that process of putting files where they belong a lot faster. And then compared to ERPs, what we hear consistently from people who are early testers of this feature is that it's a lot more intuitive than other systems. It is faster. Like I said, you can bulk enter information. There are significantly fewer clicks. And the primary thing that people love right now is that it's a very forgiving process. We have undo functionality. If you make a mistake, you can really easily get rid of it. You can drag and drop components to the correct spot without any negative repercussions to your quote down the line. You can always discard your work. And you can build the BOM in the way that makes the most sense to you. So some shops will tell us that the way they have to build their BOM structures out in their ERP doesn't necessarily line up with the information that they're starting from in the RFQ and how they're kind of figuring out what the actual manufacturing bill of materials needs to look like. So if they're in the process of building their BOM and they realize that they need to add a parent-child relationship because of how they're going to make a subweldment or something like that, that's something that is difficult to go back and change. It's really easy to make changes to your BOM as you're working through it in Paperless. You can build it in whatever way you want. You can create all of your components and then add parent-child relationships. If you know what your subassembly should look like, you can kind of build from the top down. So it's flexible, it's intuitive, it is forgiving, and it's meant to make the process of quoting assemblies a lot faster. Thanks, Duncan. The reason that we're going to be showing this at FABTECH, and I'm describing it to you now, even though it is not available to all of our customers, is that we are early on in the process right now. We've kind of just gotten this foundational interface in place, and we are still doing some preliminary beta testing on it, so it's not available to everybody yet. The next step also before we get to this to the rest of our customer base is that we want to bring together Wingman and BOM building. So figuring out what a BOM structure is from PDFs, from an Excel spreadsheet, these are kind of prime opportunities for us to use Wingman, both to reduce the manual entry that you need to do into your coding system, and also to make the process of just figuring out where all this unstructured data belongs easier. So once the BOM builder is available to our customers, part of that is going to be that we will also be suggesting BOM structures kind of on top of that interface. We're hoping that both creating the BOM builder and introducing Wingman is going to eliminate the amount of time your team spends building a BOM from scratch, make this process more of a review step rather than doing something from scratch, and make it really easy to turn the eBOM that your buyer sends you into an mBOM that reflects how you're actually going to make the part.
Awesome. So before we get into a demo, I did want to pause here. I'll be walking through a demo of what's currently available inside of Paperless Parts for about 5 to 10 minutes. That won't include what Meg was just talking about, revolving our new BOM builder and the PDF functionality there. So I will pause here for just 2 minutes. If there's any questions regarding our PDF BOM builder, maybe ask them now. So that way we can answer them before we jump into a demo. So I'll give folks a little bit of time. And when we are waiting for questions, I will just mention that we are following FMA's advisement when it comes to our participation in FABTECH. So we're hoping that the upcoming Hurricane Milton is something that passes through Florida with not as much damage, and hopefully everyone remains safe. We'll be looking at FMA to determine if we'll be there. But right now we are planning on going and planning on being at the show, and hope to see you guys all there, where Meg will also be there too. So if you guys have specific questions and want to see something live, you can go and see her at the booth and talk there.
Yeah. I think, like I said earlier, too, I do just want to emphasize this feature is not available to all of our customers yet, but we will be showing it at FABTECH to get some preliminary feedback. So if it is something that seems like it would be applicable to your team, maybe speed up some processes, feel free to swing by the booth if you're going to be there, and I will give you a quick demo. Happy to answer any questions or talk through any feedback you might have.
Okay. So it looks like there's no questions yet. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and walking through a demo. If you guys do have questions, you can click the little Q&A button and type in your questions, and we'll get to them after the demo has been completed. So what I'm going to show you in the next 5 to 10 minutes is starting with an email that you might have received from your buyer. We'll look at ingesting that email into Paperless Parts, walking through a high level how to set up the quote in Paperless Parts, and then costing a single piece part, right? We can handle assemblies. There's a lot of other functionality that we won't talk about today, but this will just be a quick recap for folks that haven't seen us in a bit or are seeing us for the first time. So with that, let me share my screen. So hopefully everyone can see this email RFQ request that I have coming in from Connor LaChapelle. So I'll pretend he is my buyer and I am the estimator at the shop. So what has happened is Connor has sent me this email that has a variety of different file types, PDFs, step models, and even a zip package, as well as part numbers and quantities that Connor wants me to quote. And it's important to note that he sent me this RFQ package on June 25th of 2024. So I'm a little bit behind in responding to this, but it's been a busy day on the road, and I totally forgot to respond to this quote. So the first step that I would do is I would actually forward this into the Paperless Parts account. How I would do that is each account each of our customers will have a specific email address that will link to their Paperless Parts instance. And so you can rename that email address whatever you like. I've renamed it to RFQ Duncan. And when you forward that email off to that particular email address, it will actually shoot it off into Paperless Parts. So I'll just show you guys in live time how long it takes. It generally takes about 20 or 30 seconds. And during that time, Paperless Parts is looking at the email files, bringing those into Paperless Parts, doing some basic automation to set up the quote process, and also detecting if any of those files contain, ransomware or malware, to ensure that your team is not opening up and downloading any malicious files onto your, computer or machine at the office. So we'll wait a little bit longer. Hopefully the fact that I'm on my hotspot in my car isn't going to affect it too much, but keep it real for you folks. Oh, okay, cool. Just now came in with a little refresh. So this was the RFQ that was coming in right from that email forward. So we can see that, like I mentioned, Paperless Parts detected that that email was actually sent to us and received by our team on June 25th, even though I'm not starting it until October. This is important to note because this has been automatically filled out, and it makes it really easy for your team to actually start capturing important analytics, such as how long it takes to send a quote out from the time that it was started by your team versus the time you actually received the quote. So you can start tracking win rates by how long your buyer has been waiting. Or when it comes to quote triage, being able to prioritize quotes that you've received from your buyer, um, you know, uh, at your earliest convenience. As we go down, we'll see some other purple highlighted text. Every purple highlighted text is a suggestion that was made by Wingman. So this suggestion was pulling in the email and detecting that Connor LaChapelle from GE was the one that sent me the request. Paperless Parts knows this because I've quoted Connor before in my system, and maybe I have an ERP system connected to Paperless that also has Connor listed as a contact. So my salesperson, Frank, is assigned to Connor. So he got a notification. He was automatically assigned to this quote as well. As we scroll down, we see some high-level notes on GE and on Connor in particular. When it comes to that email request, we can see the email was actually dropped into Paperless Parts. So now anyone on the team can access that email and see exactly what that email said and what the content was. But then also any supporting files that was found on those emails were uploaded to Paperless as well. And if we do a quick hover over, we can see what these files look like. And I can even unzip zip files within Paperless Parts as well. So with a couple quick clicks, I can have all the files that I want inside of Paperless Parts. And this removes the need to go to shared drives or have certain people being able to access only certain information, right? We make it very easy to have all your quote information in one spot inside of Paperless. Now, the next step will be actually creating our line items. And so right now in the platform, what we've done is we read this RFQ email and we detected the part numbers and associated quantities that were written on that email. And that is using our Paperless Parts Wingman AI. Um, so I can create the line items very quickly using this module. And if, for example, the email did not contain that breakout and I got an Excel spreadsheet with those breakdowns instead, it's very easy to copy and paste part numbers and quantities into that screen I just had up a second ago. Now, the next step here is once these line items have been created, being able to associate which of my documents align with which part numbers used to be a task that sometimes for a large RFQ package of 20 or 30 or 50 parts would take our shops hours to do. Now it's a couple quick clicks to actually assign all those files with the appropriate line items. And this works by just, again, our tool looking to see if the part number exists somewhere within that string of text on the file name, right? So even if there's a prefix or postfix on that string of the file name, it will automatically detect that it's supposed to be going to the associated part number. Now, some of these part numbers came in and they had two files, the PDF and a step model, and we've automatically merged those together, while others just had a PDF. So as those come in, looks like my screen on my end's a bit frozen. So let me refresh that. Apologies again for the whole entire chaos with doing this from a hotspot, but this looks better. Now as I come through, we can see each one of these files has been uploaded, and I get a quick snapshot of what this file looks like. Now I'm going to pause here um, because it's important to note that Paperless Parts is inherently visual, meaning we will always give you thumbnail showcases of what the part actually looks like, whether it be a PDF or a model. So that way you don't need to click to make a decision. A lot of shops I talk to, when they get a quote request in, the first thing they do is a feasibility check to see, does this part even work within our business? And Paperless Parts is helping that occur by A, having these thumbnails, but then B, also having some of this information from Wingman. So you can see on this PDF, for example, we have brought in the part number. I'm automatically figuring out the revision from the PDF as well. And then this Found in Files tab will show us things like the fact that this part is made up of aluminum 5052, there's some fretted holes, and that this part does contain CUI or ITAR data. Now, for the purpose of this webinar, I will say this is a demo account and there is actually no CUI being displayed, but this is an example for shops within the aerospace and defense industry that will actually detect that for you as well, or help you detect it. Now, how does this information actually how is this verifiable, right? So if we open up our PDF viewer, I click the thumbnail image, it brings it over to Paperless Parts. And what we'll show you is how these AI detections were actually found on the print itself. So if I have this print up, I can see everything that was detected is actually highlighted in purple text to showcase where exactly we're pulling it from the model. So this again helps us to ensure that A, we're not missing critical information like these threaded holes and this material type, and B, ensure that our team can actually verify that this information is correct. So we go back to our quoting page. This happens on every single file that has an associated PDF. So as I scroll down, I can quickly see what are the material grades that are calling out, what are the drawing numbers, what are the part numbers, what are the revisions, and if there's certain specifications, right, we're also calling out those specifications to let you know, to ensure that A, you're not missing anything, and B, it's a bit quicker to analyze a large RFQ package comparative to what might be done today. So in the quick couple minutes I have left, I'll just showcase this part being quoted inside of Paperless. And so with this 3D model, what I'll be able to do is assign a process. So I'll say it's a sheet metal laser part, and we'll say it's 5052H32. A process is just a template of steps that you can assign to a part family. A lot of shops think of a process as how a part would, typically run through the shop. So I select my sheet metal process because this looks like a sheet metal part for me. As I come down, I can see Paperless Parts actually built out a material operation as well as router steps for me. These router steps were actually smart. What I mean by that is it's a dynamic process that will actually read the model, and based on my rules for my shop, it will actually create the router step for me. So for example, because we detected that there was bends on this part, we automatically brought out this forming step. Now, if there wasn't bends on this part, this forming step wouldn't be here. Same thing with if we're detecting holes that are smaller than the thickness of the material, or if there is countersinks or embossments. A lot of shops will create rules to say, if those features are detected, add in a CNC milling step. So that is possible within Paperless Parts to add in that if-then logic to create the router steps. And then each one of these router steps has a unique calculator attached to it. So we open up our laser calculator, we can see that these calculators are helping us derive at the setup times and run times. And so there's certain variables that are found here. Some of them are related to geometry, like for our laser calculator, the cut length and the pierce counts and traversal distance. And if a model or a DXF is included, we'll actually extract that information right from those resources to automatically fill out here. And if for some reason we're inputting variables that are not geometry or that did not come in through the interrogation, we can manually override them here as well. So that is the idea of quickly quoting a part inside of Paperless. There's plenty of more to showcase around things like our design for manufacturing warnings to detect features that should be collaborated with your team. Things like tight hems or holes near bends or W bending forms, as well as assembly functionality, analytics, and a whole lot more. So I would recommend that if you guys are interested, um, come and see us at the show at FABTECH or reach out to our team to schedule a more custom demo. And we could actually use your part files inside of Paperless Parts to showcase off how your quote workflow would work in our system. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna pause again and let people come in with questions. Let me just pull up the slides real quick so people have contact information if they are interested in scheduling a custom demo. So give me 1 second here. Okay, sharing my screen. So if you do have questions, right, you can get in touch with either me or Meg. Here are our email addresses. Our booth at FABTECH is listed here. And again, more than happy to talk more about our upcoming functionality or showing your files inside of our system. So let's see. Allie, could you oh wait, never mind. I can see the questions here. I'm actually gonna have to stop sharing my screen. Sorry guys, so I can see the questions. So question number one, Ari Cowan. Hey Duncan, hello. Anonymous attendee. Can you show a quick demo quoting to secondary operations outside suppliers with the ease of multiple emails quickly? Sure. I can show that in just a second. Um, another question was if we use customer portals to get most of our documents related to new quotes, how can Paperless Parts get that information into the system? That's a great question from Matthew. The answer to that question is we do work with a lot of customers that only can download files from secure OEM portals. So you'd be able to download those files as you do today, and then you'd be able to upload those into Paperless Parts in the form of a zip file or on a file by file basis. So instead of using the email forwarding tool, there's a spot where you can just drag and drop emails or upload the emails, right to Paperless. So that should be no issue at all. Going to the second question around outside processing, I will show that very briefly inside of Paperless. It's a good question. And so let me give you a little bit more context when I pull up my demo account again. But basically, for certain parts, you might be going outside for a certain operational step, like a powder coating step or an anodizing step, or even a machining step, what have you, right? And in Paperless, we'll make it very easy for you to actually communicate with those outside vendors. So let me quickly pull up the quote we were working on. And I'll show that off. So this will be a quick demo, but so let's say that we're adding in a certain outside step like anodize, right? First off, we could add that step into our router and it'd be labeled as an outside service. And just like all the other steps, we can actually have certain calculators attached to that outside operation, right? And those calculators could be vendor specific, right? And so I don't have any list of vendors right now in my system, but you can imagine a drop down where you have specific vendors specific for this anodize step. And that could be either in a database inside of Paperless Parts, or if we have a integration with your ERP, we can do some fancy stuff there as well to pull, again, specific vendors for specific outside operations. And then based on who you select as a vendor, we might automatically update the variables here. So maybe you have a certain lot charge that you have for specific vendors, or for anodize, for example, a lot of vendors will use a cost per square inch or a minimum piece price, right? And so that data could be automated as well, based on who you select as a vendor. And then at the end of the day, if you do need to go out to get a quote from your vendor, what you'll be able to do inside of Paperless Parts is if I go to our part viewer, this is actually where we built our own internal viewing system of both PDF prints and step models. And so what you could do is quickly come in here and you could redact the information that you want redacted. So maybe we want to hide the isometric view and the title block. So I quickly save a redacted version of this PDF. That redacted version of the PDF will be stored inside Paperless. And now in a couple quick clicks, I could actually share this with my outside service vendors. So I go to my chat, I go to an external chat, I start a new chat. I could say this is for my anodized spec. I could invite, a few different people. And let's say these are all my anodizers. I would create an email just like I would in, Outlook or Microsoft Office, right? And so I could say, please quote anodize, right? Just writing my email subject, just like I again would write a normal email. Then I'm clicking this box so that way each email is sent separately to the three invitees. So that way they don't know that I'm sending it to the others. And then I'm going to allow folks to access these files. And I'm going to only allow them access to the step model and also the redacted PDF. And I'm going to give them access to these files until Friday, because that's when I need a quote back from them. Now, when I click start chat, what happens is those emails get sent out. The emails look like they're coming from your email inbox to your supplier. The only difference is there'll be a link at the bottom that says click here to view files. They click there to view files, and they would actually be able to be brought to this screen within Paperless Parts as long as they have internet connection, and they'll be able to see the files that you sent them, even if they don't have a PDF viewing technology like Adobe, or even a 3D viewing technology like SolidWorks or e-files. They'll be able to view all this in Paperless Parts, and they don't need to be a current customer or talk with our team. They just have they'll create a password protected link so that way your files are secure. But once they access that, they are able to look at the files, comment on them, highlight certain features on the files, and chat back with your team. And what I've heard from a lot of customers that currently use this functionality is it's great because you can actually see if your vendors are opening up the files or your emails, if they've been viewing them or not. So you know who to, push on, and when someone's actually just, not being a good partner to you. So it's easy to kind of manage vendors a little bit more here. And I would highly suggest that if you guys have more questions around this technology, we do a custom kind of meeting, because there's a lot of nuance to dealing with outside service vendors, and we can help in a lot of different ways. I just don't have enough time to chat about it here. So, let's see, other questions. Local or cloud storage for customer files, drawings? If cloud, are the facilities ITAR compliant? Yes, we are cloud storage. So we're fully on the cloud. There is no local storage in Paperless Parts. With that said, we do store all our files on the AWS Gov Cloud, and we have gone through our CMMC level 2 equivalent for cloud providers. So all ITAR and CUI information that you would receive from your customers can be uploaded in our cloud system without worrying. And we have more than enough documentation, so you don't need to just take my word for it. But that is very unique for cloud providers. Most cloud providers do not go through the level of effort and cost that we did to become compliant, because it's for cloud providers usually 4 times the amount of controls comparative to a shop that needs to implement CMMC. So it's very expensive and very time consuming, but we did it because half our customers need it, and we want to be, supportive of those customers. Ari, will the parts description box transfer over, um, will the parts description transfer over into the customer file? I think this might be asking about Wingman and if our AI Wingman will detect the description on the customer file and automatically fill that out. The answer is we won't automatically fill it out for you. We'll detect that description that's on the PDF print, and we'll show that as a suggested description. And then you could decide if you want to copy that description or not, but we won't automatically fill it out for you. We always want to make sure that you guys are in control. All right, good. Sounds like I answered that good for Ari. So seems like no more questions. All right. Well, thank you everyone for sticking around. I'll wait a second or two to see if there's any more questions that roll through, but if not, looking forward to seeing you folks at FABTECH and stay safe on your travels. And if you can't make it to FABTECH, I'm more than happy to chat over the phone about your process or any questions you have with paperless. I've, done this for the past 4 years. I've helped more than 100 shops get started with paperless parts. So more than happy to dive into your specific situation to see if you guys would be a good fit for us as well. So I guess we'll end there, Allie.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.